Welcome to Wagered on Tilt. I am T, and today I'm going to be walking through building out a Poisson distribution model using macros within Microsoft Excel. So what we are going to be covering today is very similar to what we've covered in the past on a different video. However, this is going to be me walking you through step by step how do you create this into Microsoft Excel so that you can actually run macros and get the data in and out faster than you could in a normal sheet. All right, everybody. So while we're getting this prepped, what we're going to want to do is go ahead and start filling out the basic things that we're going to need. We're going to need 3 tabs. We're going to need one for the scores. We're going to need one for the team overall data. And then we're going to need a last one for the historical information from all the seasons. So I like to set this up as P model is my first one. And then I like to do this one as team data. Then I like to do this last one as game data. So we need to have an away team, an away earned, away allowed, expected. But below that, we're also going to need to know what is the away offense strength, what is the away defense strength. All right, so then I'm just going to expand these out so we can read these a little bit easier. Then we're going to need the same exact information, but now we're going to need it for the home team. So I'm just going to go ahead and just copy and paste that and say away, switch out for home, replace all. All right, done. All right, so now that we have those, we're also going to need league averages because that is part of the Poisson distribution and trying to creating the away offensive strength. So we will do league home earned AVG for average, league home allowed AVG, league away earned AVG, league away allowed AVG. Great, so now that we've set that up, this is going to be all the headers that we're going to be needing. You can go ahead and freeze the video if you want and copy and paste your headers into the same spots that I have them here. The next thing we need to do is track what about the book? What about the over-under and those values? So I'm going to come down to A13 and then do book O/U, book O juice. So for the book's over juice, book U juice. For the book's under, then we have the over predicted, the under predicted, the over expected value, the under expected value. Oh, great. So from there, the next thing we're going to want to do is go ahead and head over to G12, and we're going to need to be setting up these scores. So what we're going to do actually is go to G11. Let's start on G11. And we want to have the scores for the Poisson distribution going for the away team and then vertically for the home team. So I'm just going to say 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and go here and drag this out to 10. I don't think there's ever really going to be 10, but just in case there ever is, we can go ahead and handle it that way. I'm going to go ahead and paste this here and transpose it. Here is for the away team, and this is for the home team. Awesome. Now that we have that information set up and staged, the next thing we're going to want to do is start prepping our team data for the headers. So we're going to have team, then we're going to have points away earned, points away allowed, points home earned, points home allowed. That's it. Those are the only headers we're going to need for this. And then for game data, now we're going to need to actually go out, find a website that has the information we want, and then collect it. All right, so we've gone ahead and gotten to the website. So what we're going to do is highlight all the information we need. And for this, you're going to want to use 1 to 2 years worth of history. For this example on how to set up your sheet, I'm only going to collect 1 year. So what I'm just doing is the simple method of click and drag and highlight all the data that I'm going to copy out. I do not want to capture the playoff information though, because again, playoff information can skew what you're actually looking at. Often those teams play differently when it's dealing with playoffs. We're going to go ahead and jump back into our spreadsheet and we're going to copy and paste in the data. Great. Now that the data is in, the next step is to remove hyperlinks. You want to get rid of those hyperlinks so that you don't accidentally click and then jump over to the website again. It's just not very helpful and it takes away from what you're trying to do. Next, I'm going to get rid of the overtime shootout, the attendance, the log, and the notes. This information is not relevant for what we're working on today. Next, let's convert this back into a short date. That way we actually have our dates. Great. Now that we have that, there's a bunch of headers, as you can see from when we copy and pasted. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of those. We're going to highlight all the columns we have. We're going to say sort. We're going to sort by date, oldest to newest, and just hit OK. And that's going to push all those extra headers down at the bottom of the table. So we're going to go ahead and just delete those out. All right. So now we have the data here that we're going to need. And then just to make things a little bit more clean, I like to go ahead and highlight my cells. So I'm going to go ahead and color those cells. Once I fill in these cells, we're going to go ahead and create a macro to run to find the averages for those teams. All right, so now what we're going to do is create the first macro that's going to get us a lot of the team data that we're going to be needing. So in order to get the team data, right now we have no teams. So you'll go ahead and go to game data, and we're just going to go ahead and copy and paste all of the visitor names into team. We'll go to home, data, remove duplicates, continue with the current selection and remove. Yep, great. Now we have all those teams. Now I'll go back and say I also want to sort, continue with the current selection and go ahead and sort that. All right, so now that is alphabetical and we have what we need. Next, if you go into the ribbon, you can go ahead and access developer and go to Visual Basic, or you can hit Alt F11. Once in here, go ahead and right click on your Excel objects, choose Insert Module. Now this is where we're going to write this macro out. So the first thing we got to do is we got to call the macro something. So I like to just call this find home and away. So it's something I know. Find home away. Then it's going to automatically end the sub right there for you. A sub is a subroutine. So the next thing I like to do is stuff that I need to set up for that I know I'm going to need. Using the application screen updating, you can allow your processor to stay cool and not overheat when running a lot of complex things. So here, application.screenUpdating equals false turns off the UI refresh. That allows all the calculations to run before updating the UI, and then that way it doesn't take too much memory and slow down the system. But then right before this routine's done, we need to turn it back on so that the screen does refresh for us, so we need to set that to true. The next thing we'll want to do, depending upon what you name your sheets, is set them to a variable. This allows me to not have to constantly write worksheets, parenthesis, quote, the name of the worksheet, close quote, close parenthesis. So in order to do that in VBA, you need to write dim, and then whatever you're going to call it. So P model is going to be my worksheet, and I say as worksheet. Then I want one for my team stats, or we'll just say team data as worksheet, dim, schedule as worksheet. So what I've done is the 3 sheets that we have in the Excel workbook, I have now prepped these to become variables. So now I'm going to say P set P model equal to worksheets P model, set team data equal to worksheets team data, set schedule equal to worksheets game data. Feel free to name the variables whatever you like. This is just useful information to set this stuff up so it runs a little bit more smoothly and it's easier to call these things back later. Alright, so next what we're going to need to do is find the last row in our file. To find the last row in the file, what we need to do is run a quick tool here, where what we're going to do is we're going to run down the schedule and say range A1. So L row, last row, equals schedule.range A1 dot end XL down dot row. So this is going to find us the last row with information. This is important so that when we're sorting and filtering things that it actually does what it's expected to do. The next thing we need then is also get the team count. How many teams are we going to be looking at? So we'll do a similar thing. Team count equals team stats dot range a1 dot end xl down dot row. Now if you put in a single tick like that, an apostrophe, you can then put in notes, and then it won't count as code, but it's notes for you to help you read the code. Sort by schedule away. So what we're going to do now is set this up to sort by schedule away. So we need to tell the macro to select the correct sheet, activate. So schedule, which is again by the variable, our historical data, and we're telling it to activate that sheet. All right, so then we're going to do schedule dot range a1 to e, and so now I'm building a string, and I'm going to say find the last row and use that dot sort, and we're going to have our key 1, which is going to be our sort parameter, equal range b1, and then we're going to have key 2 equal quote C1. So we're telling it we're going to sort by two things. We're going to sort by the away team and the away goals. Next, we need to say that is there headers in this file that we're going to be sorting, and yes there are, so we'll be good right there with yes. Order 1 equals XL ascending. So we're going to tell it sort on column B ascending, and then we have our other order, order 2, oops, typing too fast, ascending. So now it's going to sort by the team ascending and their scores ascending for the away team. Fantastic. Now that we have this set up, the next thing we need to do is create a loop. And what a loop is going to do is it's going to rotate through every single team and collect the information we need from our historical information. So it's going to start collecting all of the scores and then averaging those things out for us. So a simple for loop for x, so you need the variable so it goes as a counter, equals 2 to team count, and I always put my next immediately, that way I don't forget to close my loop. Alright, so then we need to set what team we're going to look at. Well, the team is going to equal, there we go, team stats dot range a, so we're going to be looking at the a column, and x dot value 2. So what I'm saying is go ahead and look at the team, get the first team. So if x is 3, it'll get the row 3 of the sheet and get that team name and set that up as the team we're looking for. Then we need to do team start row equals application dot worksheet function dot match, and we're going to pass in team, and then the range is going to be schedule dot range b colon b, which is going to check the entire column, and 0 for a perfect match. So what this is going to do is tell it where do I need to figure out to start counting these things for. So we're going to say you're going to look for, say, the flames, and then it's going to say starting on which row are the flames in the scheduled history. And remember, we already sorted this table, so it's going to find the correct row. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to find the last row that exists. In order to do that, though, we have to count how many times does the team name exist, add it to the starting position, and then subtract 1. It sounds complicated, but it's really not that bad. Team end row equals, now we need to do a parenthesis, application dot worksheet function dot count if, and we're going to say schedule dot range b colon b, so the whole column is equal to team. Okay, so now we've got that set up. So then we need to also pull in the next thing, which is going to add team start row, and like I said, we need to -1. The reason we -1 is because I'm saying the team starts on, say, row 10, and then there's 90 records of them. If I just do 10 plus 90, we get 100, but that's actually because the addition is adding an additional row. Now that we have the variable PAE, points away earned, we're going to do application.worksheetfunction.average, and now we need to insert our range, schedule.range. So I'm going to start with C and team start row, and so we're going now extending it to C and team end row. Great. So now this will allow us to get our average. Now we need to get the average of the points allowed, PAA, equals, same exact thing, worksheet function dot average, but now we're going to actually target a new column because that's going to be the points that they gave up, which is what the home team scored. So we're still looking in the same range, but now we're looking at another set of data, which is the home team. E and team start row and E and team end row, close the parentheses. All right, now that we have that set, the next thing we need to do is go ahead and actually pass the information back into the spreadsheet. So we'll say team stats, actually it's team data dot range B and X, because remember it's looping through based upon those team names, equals PAE. And then we need to pass in the next one, range C and X dot value 2 equals PAA. Okay, so now that we have this set up, what we're going to do is we're going to run a test. We should now see the points away and points allowed populate when we run this. So let's go ahead and run this. So that everybody knows, I did make a mistake. I wrote team stats instead of team data. All right, now it's gone ahead and run, so let's go back here and check, and great, now we have the data in there. The reason it was on the schedule is because we have a call in here saying activate schedule. So let's go ahead and add an additional note in here to just say team data dot activate. That way it activates this worksheet right before. Now that we've gone ahead and done this, we now need to get the home information. Well, the great news is we've already done half of the work and we just need to update some variables. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this information, create some space, scroll up and say I'm going to set this as home. We're already on that sheet, so we don't need to reactivate it again. We're still sorting everything, but now we're going to actually sort by D and E, because that's the home team information. Then we're going to come back down in here and just update things where we need to. So the team name is still going to be A. The start row is still going to match, but now we're matching on D rather than B, because again, we're looking for the home. D, D. All right, so then here, we're just going to kind of swap these things out. E, C, E, C. Instead of away, these are going to be home, so we're going to change out instead of PAA and PAE, PHE and PHA, H, H, and then we need to update these as well, D, E. And it's that quick. And now we'll be able to run this full thing, and we should get all of the data we need. Great, now that it's run, we've gone ahead and got all of our data here that we needed. Next, we need to go ahead and set things up on our P model sheet. So from here, you have the option. You can either add into your macro and add some more league average information, or you can go ahead and just put in some formulas. So from here, let's just go ahead and make this a little bit more simple. So I'm just going to say we're going to take the average from the home earned average for the home earned, right? So we'll go to game data, home average earned, and then equal the home average allowed, game data. Here, I'm just going to type in average, average, there we go. Now, this may seem trivial, but the home earned average is also the league away allowed average, and vice versa. The home allowed is also the away earned. That makes sense. Now that we've gone ahead and set this information up, let's go ahead and finish building out the Poisson distribution table. So as in the previous video, we're going to type in equals Poisson dist. Now we need to choose the X, and again the X is going to be what we're passing in. So we're going to say the away, and then we're going to take the away's expected goals. And then we're going to say false, because we do not want this to be cumulative. Great. So for them to score 0 goals, there's a 6% chance that that could happen. But we need to times it by another Poisson distribution again, and where that's the home to score 0 goals, and then we're going to take the home's expected goals, and again false. We don't want to do cumulative. So there is less than a 1% chance this game is going to go 0-0. Now that we have that in there, we need to lock some cells to account for the horizontal and the vertical changes that are going to be happening. In the first one, if we assigned it to the away team, what's going to be happening is we're going to change our column, but we're not going to be changing our row. So what we're going to do is go ahead and lock our row to 11, and we'll lock in D2 as the point of data so it doesn't change as we move around. We'll do a similar thing here where the column is staying for the home, but the row will be changing, but the point of data of D7 will not. Now that we've got that, we can copy it and just set it to our table here and hit paste. Now that that is all in, I do like to change this up to a percentage, and that way it's a little bit easier to read. The next thing you can do also to make it cleaner is from home, choose conditional formatting, scroll down to color scales, and choose a color scale that means something to you that is helpful and insightful. I like to usually use this one because I like the heat map concept of red means it's hot, which means more volume and more accuracy in there. Now that we have this, we can easily see where all these points are falling. So the next thing we're going to want to do is go ahead and create a macro for figuring out how many of the Poisson distributions will match what we're trying to accomplish. So the first thing we need to do is, again, we need to create the subroutine. So we type sub. I'm going to call this collect outcomes. And as before, application dot screen updating equals false. Then application dot screen updating equals true. All right, so then we want to once again go ahead and name our sheet as a variable, and then that way we can call that variable later. So first we have to dim it. So dim pscore as worksheet. Then we need to set that variable. So set pscore equal to worksheets p model. All right, so we have that there. Let's go ahead and review up here. So p model, yep. All right, so now we've gone ahead and set up the variables for the basics of our sheet. Next, we're going to want to go ahead and create a variable for what the book number is going to be for the over-under. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable called book amount. And I want this, though, to be a whole number because you can't really look at the Poisson distribution and know a half point, and it doesn't make sense. So I want to see a value, and then I want to set that to greater than or equal to what I'm trying to achieve. So we're going to want to set the book amount equal to what we're trying to accomplish. We will have the book amount already in here. So if we had our book amount in here was 5.5 for 5.5 goals, so we're going to say book amount is equal to, and again, we don't want to do 5.5. That doesn't make sense. So we're going to have to round that up or down. I prefer to round it up. That way we can say greater than or equal to. So we're going to say book amount is equal to application dot worksheet function dot round up, and then we're going to say it is in the pscore dot range b13 dot value 2, which is just saying I want this explicit value, use this one in this cell, and again we're just pointing to b13, and then 0 to just say rounded up to the nearest whole number. Now that we have the book amount, we want to go ahead and create a new variable to hold our totaled odds. So I'll just call this summed odds, and I'm just going to set it to 0 for now. All right, then we need to go ahead and get the starting row for this record. So I'm just going to call this start row equals application dot worksheet function dot match, and we're going to say book amount from pscore dot range. And what we're going to do is we're going to set the range for the away, and it doesn't matter, you can do the away or you can do the home. For right now we're just going to use the home, so we're just going to go all the way down. So we're going to say this is starting on F12 to F22, then, and we put in the 0 so that we're saying it has to be false, it has to be a perfect match. Then we're going to go ahead and add, and what we're going to add in here is going to be 11. The reason that we're adding in 11 is because the row starts on 12, and I need to account for the additional rows so that when it ticks down, it actually knows exactly where it needs to be. Okay, so now that we have this, what we're going to want to do is go ahead and then create our loop. So for x equals 0 to book amount, we're going to go ahead and begin looping through, and we're going to go all the way up until that specific number. The sports book says 5.5. We're going to round up to 6. So now the loop is going to say you're going to have to run this 6 times because there's 6 potential outcomes, right? The home team gets 0, the home team gets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so we're going to go ahead and set this, just put in next. Now to build in the loop, we're going to say 0 equals start row minus x. Z column if I could type 7 plus x. So what I'm doing now is I'm setting values that are going to be able to track all the way across. The problem is that we want to be able to collect these scores depending upon where the value is true. What I'm going to do now is I've set these up. So now I need to say start count is equal to 0. All right, so now inside of my initial loop of where we're counting all the way through 0 to whatever the book amount is, I then need to create another loop. So I'm going to say for y equals start count to 22. So what I'm telling it to do now is you're going to go down to row 22 and end, and the start count is going to change over time. So we're going to come down, count all the way through. Come to the next one, count all the way through. So we're creating an additional loop inside of here. So we'll say next. Then what I need to do is in here, we need to put summed odds equals summed odds. And we do this because it's accumulating these over time, plus pscore dot cells. So the way cells works is that it's going to be based on the row and then the column, whereas range goes column and then the row. So here we're going to say that the column is going to be, or the row is going to be y, and the column is going to be z column dot value. All right, so now we need to add the final loop that's going to collect all the additional numbers where this is potentially going to go over. So before we just found all the pegs where it lands on 6. Now we want to collect all the additional ones where it would be then behind the 6 or greater than the 6. So in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and need to put in another loop, and that's okay because it should go pretty quickly here. So we'll say start extra equals the book amount plus 8, and that's because we're going to move over that many columns. Then we need to say end extra equals 17, because 17 is the final column of our Poisson distribution table. For x equals start extra to end extra. Next. Then we're going to nest in another smaller loop for y equals 12 to 22, because again, those are the rows where we have the actual scores in there. For next. And then we're just going to say extra rates equals extra rates plus pscore dot cells y x dot value. So now it's going to loop through these and sum all the additional ones, and then we have a final p-score where it's going to total those, the original summed odds of where it's just landing on that score, and then everything greater than that score, Once we run this, we should be able to get a correct number. So I'm going to clear this out, and I'm going to go ahead and run it. And we get 56% to go over. Now we want to validate our 56%. So let's go ahead and see all the places where it's going to go over 6 goals or equal 6 goals. So we create our little step ladder that way. Go ahead and sum these, 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 and this one. And here we have 56%. So there's a 56% chance for it to go over. So now to set the under predicted value, you would merely just say equals 1 minus the cell above to get us our 44%. So there's a 44% chance it's going under. There is a 56% chance it's going over. And again, that's where it's 6 or more because you can't land on a half goal. So now we need to figure out what is our expected value for these bets. So let's go ahead and enter in the book juice. So minus 110, and we're going to say minus 110. This is a very common one that we'll see for odds. We can also make it say minus 105, minus 105. And for the over, since it's a higher probability, we'll just say minus 130, if that's what the book is predicting. Now I want to see my expected value. So this one is a little bit more complicated for a formula if you're not thinking through it all the way. Equal if this juice is less than 0, then we need to do 1 minus 100 divided by the juice. Here, good. Else, we'll do 1 plus the juice divided by 100 times our probability minus 1. We don't have a great expected value on this one. So then for the other one, for the under, we're going to do the same kind of formula, but now we're just going to point to the other values. So what you'll do is go ahead and come in here, copy this, paste it down in here. And instead of B14, we are going to say B15. And rather than B16, we are going to say B17. All right, and then hit enter. So there's no real good leverage on either of these. If this was minus 105, we would now have some positive returns on this. If we were to say this is at minus 110, right? Still a little bit of return on it. As soon as we hit like minus 120, we're probably gonna start losing. Yeah, we're crashing down pretty quickly here. You can also turn these into percentages if it's, again, easier for you to view, like that. So you're looking for positive expected value. I usually try and go around, if it's 5% or more, that's usually when I start getting interested. If it's at 10, I'll definitely put some money down on it. But again, you gotta remember, your numbers may not be better than the books. A lot of times the books have insider information. They have all these super machines and algorithms and computers. Your Excel tools are not going to compete against machine learning, but you can start reducing the risk that you're introducing. So as you get better at this and better at this, you can use these models to go ahead and figure out, is there a slight edge? Do I feel there's a slight edge? In the long run, over time, you're going to get better and better and better. It does not mean you can become a professional with this type of a system. This is far too simple to always beat the books, but this is a great stepping stone to try and get there. So that is it, everybody. That is a Poisson distribution model built in Microsoft Excel using macros. I am going to try and make this file accessible somewhere on the web, so I will probably update the description once that is ready. I will also look at putting the macros into a text file. That way you can also download the text file if you don't want to retrieve the actual spreadsheet. All you have to do is copy the fields that I have put in the video and then go ahead and do that. As always, if you like this content, please give it a thumbs up so that I know that this is useful content and helpful towards you. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to drop a comment. I will try and reply as fast as I can. If it's about, you don't like the video, tell me why. If you like the video, tell me why. If there's some kind of content you would like me to see put together for you, let me know. I do plan on doing more videos about macros and how I do these things, including build web scrapers and things like that. So other than that, until next time, happy wagering.